Dan next for the business news with Stephen Carroll. Good to see you, Stephen.
Hi, Delano.
Starting with some tough talk from the United Kingdom and the European Union ahead of their trade talks.
Negotiations due to start in the next couple of weeks over a trade deal between the UK and the European Union. Ahead of that, the President of the European Commission has been telling the European Parliament that Britain will only get access to the EU market if it sticks to the bloc standards, while Britain's Michael Gove has told businesses that border checks on goods going to and from the EU are inevitable. Both sides trying to agree a deal by the end of the year. Let's hear from the Commission Chief, Ursula von der Leyen.
Of course, we still have our standards that have to be respected. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised to hear the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom speak about the Australian model. Australia, without any doubt, is a strong and a like-minded partner. But the European Union does not have a trade agreement with Australia.
Okay, let's take a look at what's happening on the markets this lunchtime. European shares trading up. Investors digesting a lot of company results today. We've got gains across London, Paris and Frankfurt. The impact of the coronavirus outbreak still a big concern for business, but not being borne out on share markets today. Meanwhile, many businesses in China have shut operations due to the coronavirus outbreak. Capital Economics are estimating that it'll cost the global economy $280 billion in the first quarter of the year. Wuhan is a hub for the auto industry and under quarantine because of the virus. There and elsewhere, many French business people have been affected by the shutdown. Yuka Royer reports.
Wuhan, the capital of the Chinese auto industry. All French car makers have factories here, all shut down at the moment because of the coronavirus. Jacques Hamboul is one of the few French citizens still in the city. He runs a car parts company, but has been working from home for 3 weeks now.
We received automated text messages saying we have to keep staying at home.
The epidemic and quarantine measures have disrupted the supply chain, affecting companies like his that employs 40 people.
The fact that the city is under lockdown means we can't send any products nor receive any parts from our suppliers. So if one component is missing for a car, the whole production line stops.
Far from the epicenter, diners and shoppers in Beijing have also hit the brakes.
I haven't seen anyone since the 23rd of January.
This bakery cafe, one of 15 in China owned by Benjamin Duvos, has not only fewer customers but also employees because of a new law banning employers from forcing staff to come to work.
More than half my staff are off, but I still have to pay them.
Revenue has dropped 80% since the outbreak.
I'm still optimistic. I hope that the crisis will be resolved and we will be able to get our business going again, maybe with a little help from the Beijing government.
Others are more worried, like Marianne Daquet, who runs 3 art schools. All of the classes have been cancelled, with no indication as to when they can resume.
Let's take a look at some of the day's other business headlines. Profits at the owner of Mercedes-Benz plunged by 2/3 last year as it was hit by costs relating to the emissions cheating scandal. The company set aside €4 billion to cover legal costs related to Dieselgate. Daimler had already announced plans to cut 10,000 jobs last year as it struggles to prepare for new EU emission standards. The tyre maker Michelin says it's too difficult to say how the coronavirus shutdown will affect its results in 2020, but it is expecting operating profits to be lower this year as a result of the general slowdown in the motor industry. The company saw its sales volumes fall slightly in 2019, but profits were on the up. And Uber has failed in its attempt to block a new law offering more protection to gig economy workers in California. A Los Angeles judge rejected claims that the ride-hailing firm, along with delivery service Postmates, were being unfairly targeted by the law. New rules make it more difficult for companies to class workers as independent contractors rather than employees. Staying in the United States, a judge looks set to approve the $59 billion mega merger of mobile operators Sprint and T-Mobile. The decision expected to be announced later this Tuesday. The deal was first announced nearly 2 years ago, but had been opposed by states, including New York and California, who argue that it would result in higher prices and poorer service for customers. French winemakers have gathered in Paris for their annual trade fair. Their sales have already been hit by import tariffs imposed by the United States. And with Donald Trump promising to focus his attention on trade with the EU now, they're worried things may get worse.
It's an important venue for deal-making for French wine producers. But this year, the ongoing trade battle with the United States is casting a dark shadow.
We hope it doesn't last a long time, because if the prices of our products are raised too much, obviously we will lose our market share. What's most worrying is the fact that there's no visibility for the coming months.
Unhappy with the EU's subsidies to Airbus that was seen as putting Boeing at a disadvantage, the US government imposed a 25% tariff on a range of European products, including wine. It's now threatening to increase that to 100%. Donald Trump is also threatening to hit French champagne and other iconic products with a 100% import duty in retaliation to France's new digital tax on US tech giants.
Those 25% tariffs are already unacceptable. We can't cope with something like that in the long run because it affects a major part of our exports. Some wine producers are really dependent on the US market.
The United States is the world's top importer of wine by value, buying more than 5 billion euros worth in 2018. France is by far the world's biggest exporter in terms of value. French President Emmanuel Macron has sounded an optimistic note on ongoing negotiations, but damage has already been done. According to the Foreign Ministry, US imports of French wine dropped 44% in November last year from the previous month, after the 25% tariff took effect.
Finally, for me, the Singapore Air Show has opened as planned, despite fears of the spread of the coronavirus. Many participants had cancelled their trip to the event, but tens of thousands are still expected to attend. The organisers have told industry officials to avoid handshakes in an effort to limit the contact that could transfer the virus. Instead, they've suggested bowing or waving as a greeting.
No fist bumps?
Well, no, because that's skin contact.
Touching.
So,
yeah. It's not very
Dylan.
intimate. Bye. Thank you very much for that, Stephen. Stephen Carroll there with today's business news. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. More coming up.